I want to show you how to Kluber a mainspring. But to Kluber a mainspring, obviously you don't want to get all my fingerprints on it. I've got a clean barrel here. And if you look at the barrel, now I'm training you. So, I have big fat fingers, so it's not exactly easy to hold it. Let me get my finger cut out of the way, which is something I would be doing all day anyway. But now I'm holding the barrel. Now this is by the book. Depending on what book you're reading, right? Rolex or ETA or whoever, the instruction manual asks you to put an oval application of Kluber grease on the barrel. So I'm going to take and
So you've got like an oil dipper there.
I've got an oiler that I use for Kluber, and I'm going to pick up a nice even amount. Sometimes I got to play with it. Now, if you look...
Now I can see there's quite a lot dangling down off it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a booger.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, but I'm going to lay... Now, every time I dip this thing, I get a different, type of leg on the end of the oiler. So in this case, I'm just going to lay that guy on there on the outer perimeter of the barrel. Now, on this particular barrel... If you can't see it, I'll tell you, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little, they're almost like chambers, because right here is a gap. And when the watch is running, the mainspring slips around this perimeter. So some of the Kluber grease will
gather in those?
Gather, and I'm going to call it a reservoir.
We can actually see one now on the video. I can see one if you... Yeah, you're just coming up to it now. I can see one, I think, there.
Now, this thing's so small that I'm not getting the ovular application that the book calls for. So I'm swirling it into a neat little stripe of Kluber grease that I'm comfortable with. So I'm comfortable with the fact that I applied the Kluber grease to the race. I guess it's a race, or it's the perimeter that the mainspring slides on. Because if I point towards the inside edge, it's not raised. And it's not raised over here because the barrel cover will snap in there. And
Right.
We'll do that later. So now I'm going to put it down and grab another application of grease, and I'm going to try to gather about the same amount, and at the end of the day, I'm not putting any back. So I'm going to skip one slot.
So I'm just going to zoom in as close as I can so people can see exactly what you're doing.
Now, if I screw up, I'm going to clean it with a stick. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut a stick and wipe it. And this stuff goes really far. You have to understand that I've had this amount of Kluber for 10 years. So I'm not burning through it. And I've Klubered a lot of watches. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to that one. And I'm going to be as neat as possible. And I got a little bit on the bottom edge there, but I'm going to wipe that off with a sharp stick. So I will come back and clean up my work. I also don't want any legs hanging off. But if I have a little leg hanging off like a little volcano, it'll get pressed down the way I show you to put the mainspring in, when I put the mainspring in.
So you're just picking up a little bit more grease.
And here I got a leg here. And I'm going to use the middle one that's not. And I'm going to gently lay the leg of Kluber grease down. And by the way...
I can see that really well now.
Okay, but this is... When they call it Kluber grease, Kluber is this company in Germany that makes these lubricants. It's actually a friction grease.
So what that means is instead of lubricating it to not to slide well. It's actually quite a sticky lubricant.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody wants to respond or comment to our video, they can enlighten me on the properties of this Kluber grease that maybe we don't all know about.
I'm going to assume it's designed to be at its optimum at around skin temperature.
So now if you zoom in, you'll see that I hit it here. I like it.
Yeah.
I hit it here.
Yeah.
And then around the other side, I hit it there. And
there's one little bit that's just stuck out.
And I'm going to
tidy up.
I'm going to tidy it up. Yep. Yep. And you'll know if you put too much grease on if it fucking squeezes out of the spring. When I pop the spring in, you'll go, oh, we put too much grease.
Because the thing about watches is, unlike most mechanical things or engines, too much oil or grease is usually bad with watches.
Less is more in this world. And then I'm going to use my dirty Rodico putty.
I'm just going to move around, see if I can get onto that. There we go.
I'm going to use my dirty one. And I'm just going to come around. And I'm going to clean off any of my mess.
So you just went round with your little
my
wooden...
stick. Yeah, it's bamboo.
Yeah, so it's not going to scratch or cause any problems.
No, I don't want to scratch the barrel.
And then you're just using some old Royco putty?
Yeah, Rodico, yeah. And if I feel like my stick is too fat, I'll just trim it with the scissors. You know? So I'm trying to give you a good view of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've got a great view of that. You can see that now, and you can see the grease sitting in those grooves.
Yeah.
It's so intricate. You would think it would just be a line of grease and an O-ring or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it's not. So now I am going to take my, and I'll work quickly, I am going to take and sharpen the scissor.
This is on your piece of wood stick.
Yep, I'm going to sharpen it really sharp, and I saw a little booger hanging out, and I'm going to wipe it just ever so gently right there.
Let's see if I can get a view of it.
I got it off. And I assure you that when this watch is running and the spring is in, that the Kluber does migrate. You know, it does go places. And now my inside edge here, I'll let you see it. We're going to run the perimeter here and inspect it. And I do see a spot where the grease got away from me. So I will clean it. Right there. Yeah, and I'm going to sharpen the stick a little. I might even add a little more Kluber to that one that I might have removed a little more than I... But now I've got a sharp, you know, and I use these sticks like that. And I'm just going to get it nice and perfect. And I like it. And I like it. And I'm just looking at my application. Yeah, I like it. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure that there's somebody out there who can get those little things in an oval applied, like, to perfection. You know, but it looks good. I don't see it in inappropriate places. I mean, it's meant to be on the perimeter and nowhere else. That's for sure. So, and you know, I'm also working on an angle so you can see. Yeah. Okay. So now, next stop is we pop that mainspring in. So now, you might wonder, well, gee, we had a little bit of raised grease there or there, but it's all laying nice and flat. So I'm going to lay my mainspring in there.
So you're using, is that like a jig or a tool to put the mainspring in?
Yeah, the mainspring comes in this.
So this is a brand new mainspring?
Yeah, and it didn't really go in the way I like.
Hang on, let me just move over so I can see better. So you're now pushing it down using...
I did.
Oh, I got
I
you.
used my brass tweezers, and I did get the mainspring in successfully. And if you'll notice, none of that Kluber
is
squeezed up.
Is squeezed out.
And I'm using my brass tweezer to seat it without damaging the perimeter of my barrel.
Why do you use a brass tweezer?
Because it's softer than stainless steel.
So you can't damage it?
Well, zoom in on my tweezer and I'll tell you why.
Hang on,
okay.
Let me see if I can find it. Hang on.
So here's my tweezer.
Yep, got it.
from a metallurgical perspective, brass is softer than steel.
So you can't damage the steel.
And it's easier to pick up my screws because it's softer and grippier.
Gotcha.
And the feeling of picking up a screw with the brass tweezer
Feels more natural.
Feels gentler than if you try to pick up screws with your steel tweezers. I'm not saying that I don't pick the tiny little screws up with these stainless steel tweezers, but
with the brass, there's no danger of causing damage.
You have all the advantages, yeah. It improves your dexterity.
I assume with the mainspring and the hairspring, there's always the danger that you'll completely trash it.
Yeah, so now I want to show you where I put the arbor. Now, I put the arbor on my bench block.
Hang on a second, let me show where that is. Yep, so that's the arbor
and
there.
I positioned it. Now, I already know what I want. Okay. But I positioned it.
Oh, let me follow you. Yep.
The way I need it, which happens to be
That
screw side down or square shank down because the ratchet wheel is going to sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we know on most watches that this end of the arbor is on the lid side. And this is just repetitive experience. So we know where we're at. But I'm going to pick this up if you want to pause for a sec.
Yeah. Hang on. All right, we're carrying on.
So,
we just grabbed the right tool.
I grabbed my pin vise, which was in my toolbox, and I'm going to grip the arbor with my pin vise, and I'm going to make it so you can see it.
So, yeah, I can't see it at the moment because your hands, but it'd be interesting to see. Oh, hang on,
Well,
I can see it. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. So the pin vise is being used to just pick these up in a very precise way?
You don't want to lose the arbor because they can roll... in like unbelievable migrations. They go places that you don't want to know about.
Yeah. I live in an old house with plenty of gaps in all of the floorboards.
I've seen arbors go 20 feet and I find them later,
So this is a pin vise.
Yeah. Oh, honey, I found the arbor, 2 weeks later. Yeah. So now we want to clean off all that Kluber grease. We want to really clean it off. So I hit it. And because I'm wearing my loop and not my readers at a distance, I've gone through my finger with the oiler. But today we're not going through our
So
finger.
hang on a second. Let me just pick up what's going on there. You've cleaned the oiler off.
And I'm going to oil the arbor.
You just dunked it in this red capped.
I picked up a drop of high pressure grease.
So that's the high pressure grease.
Yeah.
And now you're just applying it to...
the friction surface of the arbor.
Gotcha.
And then I'm going to pick up the barrel. And you can zoom in on the barrel.
Yeah.
I apologize for blocking your view.
No, we can
And I'm positioning the barrel spring.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the spring, the coiled part of the spring runs counterclockwise, and my pinning is positioned to correlate with the counterclockwise position of the spring, so it's going to catch. So what I'm going to do is, I gripped it in my pin vise.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Good. And I'm going to just shimmy it in there, get it in its position, and then test wind it.
And you should see it starting to put tension on.
And I like it. So now I loosen my pin vise and gently drop.
So let me just catch what's up in there. So, okay.
And then I'm going to put it on a big hole right here, and I'm going to press the thing back into position where it should be, and it's lubricated. So now I'm going to lubricate the other side of the arbor that's going to race on the barrel cover. So I put a tiny little drop of grease or HP, and now I'm coming back at you with the barrel cover. Yep. Now remember, we inserted the spring in. I like it. There's no excess Kluber. I like it. I probably put more Kluber in the 3 spots than the book calls for, but I feel comfortable with the fact that we didn't leak any Kluber out. Now, I could use a barrel closer, but for some reason, I've been moving towards snapping it on by hand. So then I pick it up, and I just like to see it. And for some reason, I'm starting to like to see things more. So I'm just, can you see me?
Yep, I'm following your fingers around.
I'm snapping the barrel cover on.
And you're doing it with the brass tweezers?
With my brass tweezers, and I'm doing it with the flat because I like it. I can see it.
You can feel it as well.
I feel it, yeah. So there's this thing about feeling it that works for me. Because when I use the barrel closer, it snaps on, and I'll show you the barrel closer later. But I still have to take and inspect it, And what we have here is a ready-to-go Kluber mainspring in the barrel ready to go. Now look, we got a couple smudges there, and I can get them off with the Kluber. You know, I don't know where they came off. Maybe my finger caught is a little bit smudgy, but nothing crazy. But I am going to keep this thing clean. And I'm not going to press too hard on it this way because I don't want to pop the cover off. Because there is a way to pop the cover off, which we'll show you in another video when we disassemble a watch. But she's all clean, ready to go.
So that's it.
And interestingly enough, if your barrel cover was not on right, and it was, let's say, not snapped in all the way, when it's in the watch and you put the bridge on, you'll know it because the watch won't run. Gotcha. It'll be dragging or possibly seized, and you'll go, God, why is this watch running so slow? And then you take the barrel out and you go, oh,
that'll be why.
My barrel cover wasn't on right. So
okay,
that was a nice deal right there, the way we did that barrel. I'm happy. I'm going to put it in a 28-24 movement. If you want to move forward, I'll shoot another video with you and we'll get the main plate out and put something together.
So please like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a massive difference for us. And we're going to put some links to various tools and stuff that we've used as well in the description. So there you go. Thanks very much.